Hello, so here I am in my storage system on Minecraft with something new for the world of storage tech. Or at least I believe it to be new, as I haven't been able to find anything quite like it. We've all seen like standard storage system stuff, and regular chest silos where you've got a chest that's visible, that has a whole bunch of items in it, and it draws from a stockpile at the back. You might even have indicator lights, which are almost always inaccurate. And we've all had the annoyances, I imagine, where if you want to make one that holds 25 double chests or 50 double chests, you need to have that many double chests, and so they get bulky and they get to be a pain. And it takes ages to refill the chest at the bottom. As a result of all of those problems, shulker silos are starting to become a thing. Now you've got shulker box that is visible that breaks whenever you empty it and then it gets replaced. Or, of course, the obvious, just have a chest full of shulker boxes. I have been working on a version of that where the shulker box is, as you can see, projecting out from the wall. Almost all shulker silos have the shulker either in the wall, or they have them level with the wall and they aren't seamless. I have made one which is seamless and has the shulker box out of the wall, which in my opinion looks, while they are spaced out a fair bit, I think that looks quite nice. Now, these have accurate indicator lights, so these silos that I'm at now have a 100 box capacity. This is 1 to 20 boxes, 21 to 40, 41 to 60, 61 to 80, 81 to 100. The percentages are true for all of the designs, so if I go ahead and empty it, you can see the shulker box is broken, replaced, and the lights update themselves. And I have several of these, they all work the exact same. And assuming they've been built correctly, they all work every time. I say that because I had built this one wrong, and so it did not work. If these are of interest to you, I will put a timestamp on screen now that links to the important information that you should know before you decide to build them, both positive and negative. Then after that, there'll be timestamps to all of the tutorials. For everyone that's interested in at least a very brief overview of the process of coming up with these, or of how they work, stay tuned, I'll do that now. So here we are, ready to explain my process. So shulker box silos, as if you've ever built one, you'll know, need to do 4 things in order to function. If you want them to be fully automatic. You need a dispenser to place down your shulker boxes. You need a piston to break them. You need a comparator to detect when they're out of items, and you need a hopper to collect the empty shulker boxes. On top of this, you're going to need other stuff to support it, like the shulker loader, but this is, as for the visible portion goes. The typical way of decorating this might be to just build your wall around it and have it recessed in. Or you can do what was done in this one and just accept that it is not going to be seamless. This is not to insult this design, by the way. It is quite good at what it does, especially in the density department. You've got an entire different item every row. That's pretty impressive. Mine is an entire item every 8 rows. The dispenser is immovable, and you won't be able to draw comparator signals from it, so wherever you put it, the comparator can't be. The comparator has to draw them from the side, so it can't be the side. So, okay, dispenser in the bottom, piston in the side, comparator in the side, hopper in the side. How do we do that? Well, first off, we can remove the hopper and replace it with a hopper minecart that is clipped into the ground. If I can do this, I think I was able, but apparently not. There we go. Clipped into the ground, and that'll now pick up anything that goes near it. As for the comparator and the piston, we can place down a comparator on a block, through a block like this, that'll read the shulker boxes. Oh yeah, that one is full. That'll read the shulker boxes. But then, we can use a Blockswapper to replace the block with a piston. The comparator won't be able to read that, but that doesn't matter. We've already detected that it's empty. The Blockswapper does that, activates the dispenser and replaces the block. Okay, well, as we can see by the one that I showed in survival mode, that does work. And that alone isn't too hard to build. I built this here in a fairly short amount of time. It's not small, it is bulky, it is messy, it is ugly, but it does do that same job of breaking and replacing. But it does not do the lights, and it does not refill them. With a working proof of concept, it was time to work out my design goals. These ended up being as follows. Number 1, the redstone must extend no more than 4 blocks below floor level. Number 2, it must be at most 7 blocks wide. Number 3, the lights must be accurate to the relevant percentages. Number 4, it should run at 2 times hopper speed. And number 5, it should be fully self-contained. And finally, it must be seamless. In addition, I wanted it to be as quiet as possible, especially from the indicator lights, and I wanted everything to be as responsive as possible. In the end, this is what I was able to make. A 50 box, a 100 box, and a 200 box design. All 3 of these are equally responsive. They take about just over 1 second to swap out the shulker box, which sounds slow, but it is quite quick when you're actually using it. They all fill up at 2 times hopper speed, just like I wanted, and they're all quite quiet. They're all fully automatic, and they fit in the space requirements. They are 7 by 9 by 9. That can be reduced to 6, as well as this grey circuit on the side here, which we'll take a look at in a minute, is entirely optional. And it is the only thing in that 7th layer. Now let's take a closer look at the circuitry. I have a void world here with all 3 designs laid out circuit by circuit until the completed version at the end. First up, we have the layout. So the layout is pretty simple. There is the pistons in place for a Blockswapper, a dispenser, and then a dropper is needed underneath it. On the 100 and 200 box versions, there are 2 and 3 droppers respectively, but the 50 box version just has 1. Next up, we have the braking circuit. Now this is based on a Blockswapper by Ilmango, which I have modified and probably butchered, but essentially we have a comparator taking an output from the shulker box. If it runs out, this torch turns on, we get a brief pulse, which will activate the Blockswapper, activate the piston, reactivate the Blockswapper, and then activate next to where the piston was, which won't do anything. The 100 box design is identical in that regard, and the 200 box design is very similar, but this this observer line snakes around, even running underneath the repeater, in order to keep the timings right and fit around the redstone that I needed there. Next up, we have the shulker loader. Now this is a design by SamosTheSage. I've modified it since, but the design is much the same. I just wanted to pause here real quick to say that the design, while I originally obtained it from him, is nowhere near what I remember, and the two are very different. I don't know if this is just a case of misattribution and I don't remember and can't find the original, or if this is a case of I modified it so heavily that it doesn't even remotely resemble the original. However, that is, I believe, where I got the design from. This dispenser shoots out empty shulker boxes here, which get filled up by a dropper at 2 times hopper speed using this clock here. That dropper is supplied using this 2 times speed item filter, and when shulker boxes are filled, that's detected using this and triggers this note block, which breaks and replaces the shulker box. It's collected inside this hopper. Next up, we have the reloading circuit. So we've got the way that that the shulker boxes get broken, we've got the way that they get refilled. How do they get between the two? This is the majority of that mechanism. So let's say that we've got a full shulker box here that gets broken. It gets picked up by this hopper minecart, snakes its way around this hopper line, and runs into this dispenser here, which is part of the shulker loader. That will get placed. Once that is full, it will get broken and end up in this dropper vader, at which point this mechanism will shoot it up to the top. Go down this hopper line, through this hopper minecart, which is clipped into the Blockswapper, and run into the dropper and the dispenser. The dropper and dispenser are both activated using this observer line here, which is connected to this one. It runs off here. It is also triggered by this comparator. If this turns on, that will send a pulse along here and turn on the dropper and dispenser, so that way it will start from empty. The 100 and 200 box versions are very similar. They have extra large front circuits though, so that they can activate all of the extra droppers and dispensers in the right order without too much noise, and automatically from empty as well, as we can see here. Now, thing to note with the 200 box design, instead of using regular chests or just the hopper line to store all of the shulker boxes, this one, in order to store 200 empty shulker boxes, you need a lot of chests. And because of the way that this is positioned, there was no way to fit that unless I used an outside drop evader or clipped 5 chest minecarts inside it. Next up we have the reset circuit. So I mentioned that this will start from empty using this comparator here. It will also start filling from full, and that uses this circuit here. Whenever this activates, this pulse extender will be hit with a 4-tick pulse, which will turn it on. This observer will notice when it turns on and when it turns off. By the time it turns off, the empty shulker box will have made its way through the hopper line into this dispenser, and so it will be dispensed. If there are already shulker boxes in the system though, I don't want that to be clicking every single time, and so I have this mechanism here which disables it. The vast majority of the time this piston will be retracted and this will be completely silent. The 100 box design is identical and the 200 box design is different. Instead it uses a dropper into a cobweb, and the items are picked up once they leave the cobweb by this hopper. That gets detected, which after a chain of observers resets the item back up to the start and activates the dispenser. Next up we have the protector circuit. This shulker loader has no way of stopping itself from spitting out items if there are no shulker boxes left. As I said, it won't start from empty either. And so I've put this little circuit on the side, which while not perfect, will stop it from spitting out items forever. This detects if there are shulker boxes loaded. This one detects if there is any items in the shulker. If either of these are true, this torch will turn off, and that will allow the clock to work normally. But if neither of these are true, which should only happen when there are no shulker boxes left, that clock will turn off. This lets through 2 items though at the end because it's not quite quick enough to catch them all, and so there's a hopper minecart underneath this, which would have 1 item in each slot of whatever you're trying to store. So if you're storing sand, you'd have 1 sand in each slot. And that way it will pull any items out before they have a chance to get stuck in the system. This is the same on all of them, and it can be removed without causing problems to make this silo 6 blocks wide. Last up we have the indicator lights, which as this sign says is spaghetti. We have observer lines running everywhere, comparators facing in weird directions from weird blocks, and it doesn't make... It's easy to see what's going on, but that doesn't mean that it seems logical at first glance. However, this is put together in the only way that I could make work around the other redstone that this needs, and in order to have the lights be accurate, and they are. So you can see all of the versions are different. Special mention to the 200 box design, which has this comparator detecting the shulker boxes in this hopper, which then turns off another comparator instead of having one turn it off, because that was the only way I could make that fit. Something that is worth knowing with the lights, I have put buttons on the copper bulbs where possible, but I have not put them on the top of these ones up here, because that would extend this from a 9 block tall form factor to 10. This one also does not have one because this is where the water stream goes, and so instead you are supposed to control it from down here. That's the case for any of them that are missing a button because of the space requirements. For example, the second light here. And that leaves us with the finished builds. Welcome back to anyone who clicked here using the timestamp or chapter markers. We've just been looking at the circuits and now we're covering off on the finished build. So here we have the 50 box version in its entirety. Behind this we have the 100 box version. and behind that we have the 200 box version. So as I said during the first sequence and showed on my survival world, they are quite quick and responsive. They are all equal in that regard. But they do have a couple of problems, and I'll go over those now because they are important before you decide whether to build these or not. Also, for anyone popping in, this can be 6 blocks wide by shaving off this grey circuit here. Anyway, the problems. We'll start with the number one problem. And this is by far the biggest. The other ones are just peeves. This was built for a 2x speed item sorter, as was shown earlier. This hopper has to get items at very particular times in order for it to work at 2x speed. At 1x speed, it'll work just fine. At 2x speed, though, it has to get them at specific times. In the past, this would be done using a packed ice water stream, and you would drop the items into it using one of these. This is modified from one Ilmango made in his video. He said that he just spent enough time on it to make it work. I did the same, modifying it to work with the new water physics. Essentially, all this does is drop out items continuously at 2x speed, and then put them in the water stream in clumps at specific times. Unfortunately, this does not quite seem to work at the speeds that water streams now travel at. Even without ice, the water streams are too quick for this to be able to deposit items into the filters properly. And so what I had to do in my survival world was change this out to blue ice for the most part, and then fudge the water streams a lot so that it's almost never actually in water. It is mostly in things like it just traveling on ice, and then getting occasional speed boosts from patches of water like this, and maybe getting lifted as it goes past the hopper so it doesn't slow down. If anybody watching this knows how to get around that and do this properly, please do post it in a comment. And if you don't, please check the comments just in case. If not, that is something which can be a nuisance, but it is also something that doesn't take too long to deal with. Next up, so now we're looking at the peeves. The 100 box version. Where the other ones will start from empty, this one will only start from empty once the second shulker box has been filled. What I mean by that, the first shulker box is filled, it goes down to this dropper, nothing will happen. Once the second one is filled and makes its way into the dropper, then they'll shoot upwards and be dispensed, and then it will start working. That's just down to a limitation in the way that this is put together. I could not find a way to make it start on its own. The 100 box version has another issue, and that's that it clicks when it's being refilled. On the 50 and 200 box versions, there is a dropper vader to carry filled shulker boxes up to the storage area, and it is 2 droppers. On the 100 box version, in order to make things work, I needed to use one that is 3 droppers tall. This third dropper, as you can see in the completed thing, gets bud power. This block is powered as part of the clock, and that bud powers the dropper. And it does get updated by the hopper and the note block. And so that dropper ends up clicking about 5 times a second whenever this is running, which is annoying, but it's not too bad. I mean, most things click in Minecraft, so what can you do? And the last of the issues is that if you drop items here, they will be picked up by the hopper minecart, and you do have to go underneath and find those items and pull them out of the system before they can start to cause problems. And then arguably another problem, but I don't think it is. This is technically directional, but it does work in all directions. The difference is which side of the Blockswapper the piston needs to be placed on for it to work. I'll be including that in the tutorials. Anyway, that should be me done for now. I'll see you in the tutorials if you decide to watch them. Thank you for watching this. Have a lovely day, and good luck with building it. Okay, so here's the tutorial for the 50 box version. Here we have glass blocks representing the floor. Down below we have 4 blocks of space in which we're going to need to be able to build. The area is 7 blocks wide, offset 1 from the position the shulker box will be. It is 8 blocks deep, and it is 9 blocks tall, going up to 1 block above the heights. Everything here that's made out of glass blocks can be made out of just about anything. Anything here that is made out of grey concrete must be a solid block in order for it to work. Here is the materials that you need. These two are item filters. They must be different ones, and you need 4 of each. Pumpkin pie you don't necessarily need to use. You can use anything that will fill up a composter, and you need enough to get 9 levels between all of them. The pot can be a hopper or any other container that can be drawn in and taken from. I just believe that I'm under the impression that pots are the most lag-friendly option there, so I thought I might as well. Let's get started. So first off, let's place in our 5 redstone lamps. So if that's where, if your if your shulker box goes here, the lamps go 2 blocks above it. Now, if we go down to the bottom, we've got this corner here. In 1 block diagonally from that corner, we place 2 observer blocks facing down. On the second one, we place an observer facing towards the right, and then 3 facing towards the front. Have a note block from that. Make a C shape out of observers like this. That runs into another note block, and then 1 across to bridge the gap between the 2. So if we do this, we should hear it fire in that manner. This will serve as a timer for the Blockswapper. So essentially, that needs 2 pulses in order to work, and they need to be the right distance apart in time. And so, this will give it those 2 pulses at the right time. Next up, let's do that Blockswapper. So we get 2 observer blocks facing up from that note block into a sticky piston. Facing out on either side from that sticky piston, we have observers running into blue terracotta blocks. Then above those blue terracotta blocks, we have 2 sticky pistons, 1 on either side, and this forms a Blockswapper made by Ilmango. Next up, we go over to this observer that is face up. We grab 4 observers going out towards the front, running into a waxed copper bowl. And out the top of that, we have 2 more observers. This will form the basis for our shulker replacement signal. So we're going to have a couple of droppers, or a dropper and a dispenser, and this is going to help us activate those. Running into the copper bowl, we need to have redstone dust with a red terracotta block next to it. An observer facing down into that red terracotta block. Another observer facing out from the side of that one into a red terracotta block with a note block behind it, like this. Out from that note block, we should have an observer block facing to the side, running into another note block, and on top of that we should have a dropper and a dispenser. So this is sending that signal to that. On its own, this observer line, these 2, and this copper bulb is enough to send signals to those. This whole section over here is going to help us to dispense anything automatically if we put it in there. So you can see that there, which will be important. Next off, we're going to grab our decorated pot, or whatever else you've got, put that next to the Blockswapper there, place 2 hoppers feeding into it. We're going to temporarily break these 2 blocks, place 1 on top of that observer with an activator rail on top of it, place a honey block on top of the hopper, a minecart with hopper on the rail, standing inside it so it pushes up against the honey. Break the rail, and then lightly push it up against that block. It won't move much. Break the honey. Grab your floor blocks and place them above where they need to go. Get 2 pistons facing down, and use them to push the floor back. Break this temporary block, and you can now replace it with a comparator. Next off, we are going to place a hopper feeding into that dropper. And in order to supply that hopper, we're going to break these 2 blocks, We're going to place an activator rail here, or any rail. We're going to place a hopper feeding into it. We're going to place a honey block on that hopper there. Minecart is hopper. Push that into the honey block, break the honey block, break the rail, and then go around and push in the floor block again. And then we can restore the wall. So this should leave us looking like this. Okay. Now we can go over to this notebook, grab a blue terracotta block, place it on top, place another one block away, and essentially we're going to staircase up right up into the corner. Next to that staircase, we are going to place 2 observer blocks facing down, with redstone on top, and another blue terracotta block on the bottom. Just like this. We're going to come back to this in a minute, but this will form... This is for the 2 pulses to the Blockswapper. So one of them will fire from this observer, one of them will fire from this redstone line. They'll come at different times. In order to get that circuit into place, let's go for 2 orange terracotta in the back right corner, a gap, and another one with a 2x3 for orange terracotta beneath it. Place in 3 redstone dust there, place in 2 more here, place in a repeater on 4 ticks running out from that staircase, one on 1 tick running that way into a yellow terracotta block, place 2 comparators facing this way on next to the yellow block, and 2 facing into it. Now we're going to get an observer facing into that, that comparator into an orange terracotta block. We're going to have note blocks diagonally down and in front and behind it, with an observer facing from the front one into the back, and the back one up into a lime terracotta block. Place a dispenser face up next to that, and then place hoppers in a line onto that observer, and then into this little nook, over to the side one and back one under the pot. And so now if you chuck in an item, it should get caught by that hopper minecart and end up in the dispenser. Perfect. Next, we're going to put a rail on top of this note block with a honey block next to it, place a hopper, minecart, and push it into the honey block, just as we have been so far. Place a lime terracotta block on top of it once you've broken everything, and then grab a piston facing down and power that piston. Now just be careful not to nudge that or you will have to reset. Excellent. So now we're going to get the item elevator. We're going to build an item elevator by placing in an observer facing out from this one here, one facing down underneath it, going across 2 so it's underneath this, and then up 1. And that will allow us to place 2 droppers, one on top of the other. This is going to elevate items from this hopper so that the shulker boxes are actually at the same level as the input stream. We're going to have to come back to that later because otherwise it'll make it hard to build everything else underneath it. In the meantime, let's see, we need a piston over in our front section here. So, if you are facing east or south when you place these in, the piston will need to go on the left side. If you are facing west or north when you place this hole in, when you're looking from the wall, you will need to be facing, or you need to place a piston on the right side. If you get it wrong, it's okay. It will break a little bit later, but it won't break any of the redstone. You can just replace some blocks and you'll be good. If you need to place it on the left side, you'll need to push it in with a piston, like this, and then you can replace the wall blocks. Next, now that we don't need to use the piston for pushing that in, we can place it in here. We can place a block of black stained glass over next to it. And place a comparator on top of this hopper, which runs into a note block with an item frame in the same block as the comparator, which is weird. I didn't know that that was possible, but we'll go with it. This is part of a modified shulker box loader by SamosTheSage, or SamosTheSage, in the description. On the opposite side of that notebook, we need to have a lime terracotta block running in with a comparator on top, which needs to run into another lime terracotta block. On that one, we need to have an activator rail, and another one blocked up on top of the comparator. On top of that notebook, we need to have an observer facing into the blocks with the rails, and on top of that, we need to have one facing the other way from the rails. That should face into a block with a note block below it. The rail should start to pulse. If they're doing that, grab a block on top of the observers and place in a redstone torch on that block. Place in a comparator feeding into the block with the redstone torch. Go down here and place in a dropper next to the note block, the upper note block. Place hoppers into its side, its top, sideways into the top hopper, and then downwards into that one. Place in a note block down here underneath the rails, a sticky piston, and an observer block. And so whenever this, essentially, this is going to check whenever a shulker box that's here is filled up, this will turn on, and that will send a signal through here. It will extend that piston, place the observer block here, power the note block, power the mechanism, break the shulker box, and replace it with a new one from the dispenser. And then this just serves as a clock to allow items in from the filter, which we will set up properly later. Now let's grab some cyan terracotta and place that next to the orange here. Place in a comparator, and above that, an observer facing up, with a copper bulb. Next to the observer, place down a block of cyan terracotta. Next to the note block, place down an observer facing out, and then an observer facing towards the front, with another cyan terracotta. Place a copper bulb on top, and comparators from the copper bulbs in towards another cyan terracotta block. Torch on top, more blocks like this, and redstone dust here, which should line up with this torch here. Don't put it on the other side like I've done before. Now, things are going quite well so far. And what we're going to do is go back here and work out something with the light circuits. We're not going to complete them just yet, but we're going to do the orange and yellow, which are the second and third lights. So we're going to put an observer out of that note block, a second one, and we're going to have that face upwards and a second one face upwards. Next, we're going to place a block of yellow wool next to this note block, one behind it and above it, like that. I'm going to put a rail on top of the first one with an observer facing up and an observer facing out, and then one facing up into the hopper. To power that, we're going to want to go over here, place yellow wool here and next to the red terracotta, place two observers facing up in the gap there, with a redstone comparator set to subtract mode on top. Place another redstone comparator next to the yellow wool, and redstone dust running from that into the first. Place a composter behind that comparator, and fill it up to level 3, which will take 3 pumpkin pies, or a random amount of most other items, but if you hear that noise 3 times, you should be good. place an observer from these two into the back yellow wall, and now whenever this comparator turns on or off, it will send a signal through into the rails, which will then go up into this hopper, which we can use. We will come back to that circuit later once we've got more room filled in down here. On top of this comparator, right in this corner, place down a lime green wool and then a smooth stone slab. Place a composter on top of this hopper, a comparator feeding out of it, and redstone dust on top of the smooth stone slab. Place a lime wool next to the Blockswapper on the rightmost hopper. Place a smooth stone slab next to it, and then light blue wool. Place light blue wool on top of this comparator as well. On top of the smooth stone slab, place redstone dust, and both of the wool blocks place comparators that are turned to subtract mode. Over in this corner, we're going to place 3 observers facing upwards, and then 3 more facing sideways, which will run into a solid block, it must be solid, over on the front side here. This is forming part, so these wool blocks here are part of the height mechanism. We just needed them so that we could easily build this section, which is going to be part of the core of how this thing works. So we've already covered the Blockswapper and how it dispenses items. This is how it breaks the items. So once the Blockswapper has fired and the piston ends up there, it will receive a pulse through here and fire and break the Shulker box, and then the Blockswapper will activate again, which would normally just put it back in place, but because there wasn't a block with it, it can't do that. So we're going to fix up my mistakes there. Like that. So in order to power all of that, grab some light blue terracotta and place it in that gap in the wall there. Place another one down, it will be behind this green comparator, and just diagonally down from that one. Place another one diagonally up, place another one next to this light blue wool, place a sticky piston facing upwards next on that, and one more light blue terracotta on its face. On the first one here, place a comparator. Sticking out of this raised one here, place a redstone torch, and out of that, a repeater. And you'll see that that should fire. If you want to test it, you can break the torch and replace it, and you can see that that is working beautifully. Now we can go and complete the yellow circuit that started earlier, placing 2 observer blocks running out from this node block that we keep running observers out of. It should run into that redstone dust there. 2 more observers, and then place yellow terracotta there. Place a sticky piston underneath the first, facing downwards. And so now what will happen, whenever that node block goes off, that piston will either pick up or deposit this block here. Grab some hoppers, and you want to loop them around, so you place 3 more off the back of that first. 1 more that will go on top of this black stained glass, or just stained glass, and 1 more that will face into that one, on top of the dropper. Now we can continue, that completes the loop for items to move. So now we can complete some of the lighting circuits. Place an observer on top of this one, and one on top of the hopper next to it. These are those second and third lights that we started earlier. Place 2 observers coming off the one on the left, 1 facing towards the right, which will point towards this redstone torch, and 1 facing towards the front from that one, so it loops around. Place 2 observers, 1 on top of this, and 1 on top of the other one. A glass block on top of the first, and then a comparator facing into the wall. On the second one, we're going to want to put a block of orange wool and a copper bulb. On this first one, we're going to want to take an observer output to the right, and then to the back, and then upwards into a copper bulb, which will run into a comparator on this block of yellow wool. Going back to these blue and green ones, observers out from the front. On the green one, observer upwards, note block, observer going towards the left or the inside of the machine, one going towards the back, a green wool, a copper bulb, a comparator, and then another lime green wool. So it runs into the light through the green wool. On the other one, we place 3 observers facing up into a copper bulb, blue wool next to it, and blue wool next to that light with a comparator on top facing towards the wall. Next, go over to where we've got this sticky piston with a block on it. Place 2 observers facing towards the front, one up with a copper bulb on top. From that copper bulb, before we place this circuit actually, it would be much easier to do this now. We grab a composter next to this redstone torch, fill it up to level 2, so 2 pumpkin pie. Run that into a comparator with redstone dust and set this one to subtract mode. Now we continue with our first light circuit, the red one. So grab red wool and a comparator going out from this copper bulb into a block of red wool. Another block down like this. Turn that block down into a lightning shape, and then place a smooth stone slab above that torch. On the smooth stone slab and the block next to it, place redstone dust. Place it on the opposite side as well, and comparators like this, so that one runs into this block. Grab your buttons and place them on the front side of these 2 copper bulbs, the back side I suppose, on this copper bulb, and go down and place one on this terracotta block. Then, with the exact same purpose as the buttons, but not actually a button, place a note block underneath this red terracotta with an observer facing up. So what are those? These are essentially to let you resync the lighting circuit if something happens and it goes out of sync. So if I press this button, this will turn on the red light, which is the first one. And it will also let me turn it off if it for some reason becomes active when it shouldn't. The same one with this, which is the third light, and the 5th light here. Now, within the space that I was trying to build this, there was no room to have the 2nd and 4th light. Ignore this space, it will be taken up in a moment. And so the way that we do that is the 4th light is controlled with a note block here, which you can just get to by punching the wall. And the second one is with this one that we just placed in. It's a little bit messy, but it works. And you shouldn't need to use them at all, or at least very often. Going around the back again, grab the 6 packed ice and run them along on top of this hopper next to this one, and in a line across the entire thing. Grab the last 2 blocks of glass, place them there and there. Grab the glass panes and place them on the opposite side of this ice. Just like this. And now I do believe that that is everything ready to go. So, we're going to want to fix this minecart because we moved it by mistake earlier. So I'm just going to quickly do that now. just like before, a little bit harder because there's more stuff in the way. We can push in the block from this side. Just like that. Okay. Getting right towards the last steps now. Take your shulker boxes, and hopefully 6 of them have a stack of items in them. If they don't, just add that now. Grab those 6 shulker boxes, place them one at a time into the dropper. Be slow. Make sure that the second light turns back off, which it has. And then grab all of the other shulker boxes and place them into one of these hoppers here. This can sometimes take a little bit. Now, your filter. It's time for the filter. So, grab your 4 of each filter item. Go out to the back. Fill this dropper with whatever item you're planning to store. So in this case, I'll just go sand. Fill this hopper as well. Fill this hopper. And then with this hopper here, place 1 stack of your item that you want, and fill the other 4 slots with a filter item. Go into the one above it, place half a stack of the item, and then fill the other slots with a different filter item. Go down to this hopper minecart we just replaced, and fill all 5 slots with the item that you're planning to store. Just one of it. And now we should be good to test the thing. Remove the item from the shulker box, and we should see the piston return to its former place. If you just hear the piston noises stop immediately, basically immediately after the shulker box is replaced, you need to break it open and remove the piston. Make sure that it runs smoothly on all of them, which if it does for the first 2, then it should. Yep. Go out to the back where this hopper is and place that other partial stack that you have inside the hopper. Make sure that it loads, which it looks like it is. And then you're good to go. Enjoy the storage system. So, the 100 box version is largely similar to the 50, though there are some small differences. First off, the area that it needs. This is emulating floor level here, which can be any block except for this one, which has to be a solid block. There are 4 blocks between the floor and the base of the redstone, so there's 4 blocks of redstone beneath it. The wall is here, 2 blocks high, and then we have the redstone lamps, and then another block. So that becomes 9 blocks total. It is 7 wide, offset by 1 block from the shulker box, and it is 8 deep. Here are all of the materials that are needed to build it. These 9 pumpkin pie can be anything that will fill up a composter as long as you have enough to get 9 levels. This honey block is temporary, you only need it while building. These 2 are item filters. They're just any named item that you won't have going through the storage system. This 2 stacks and 8 raw cod can be anything. It is just a junk item to fill up a hopper for comparator output. And this stack of 24 raw cod can be anything that will fit into a furnace. Then of course you will need 100 shulker boxes. 6 should be filled up with 1 stack, or so 5 should be filled up with 1 stack, whatever item you're looking to store, and the other one should have 22 stacks. With all of that, you should be good to go. Going to our build area here, 1 block diagonally in from the right corner. You want to place 2 observers face down like that. Going out to the side from that, you want to place 1 observer, 3 observers, place a note block, and then make a C out of observers like this, running into another note block, and then bridge the gap between the 2 with another observer. There are going to be a lot of them. Place 4 more off this top observer here, running into a copper bulb. Off the front of this copper bulb, place another observer, and then 3 more facing sideways. Run that into a red terracotta block, a note block, and then run 2 more into that note block from the side like this. On top of that note block, place an observer facing up, and 2 observers facing to the side, into a red terracotta block. On top of the copper bulb, place 2 observers facing up, into a solid block on the floor. Out of this one, going to place 2 observers, then we are going to place 1 on this side, 1 going down, 1 going across to the right, a second one, into a red terracotta block. On that red terracotta block, we are going to place 2 droppers and a dispenser, in that order. In front of this observer here, we are going to place a comparator, and put it on subtract mode. We're then going to have another comparator facing into it. And behind that one, we're going to put a composter at level 2. So if I get 2 pumpkin pie, 1, 2. Next up, we are going to get a double chest and place it on top of this composter and the air gap next to it. Into that double chest, we're going to place a hopper. We're going to break these 3 blocks temporarily, place an activator rail, place a honey block on top of the hopper, place a minecart with hopper on the rail, and push it into the honey. Break the rail, and then push it up against the dispenser. Break the honey, replace this block of floor, and replace the other 2 1 block above where they go, and then use the pistons to push them down. Just like that. Next up, we're going to go back over this note block here, and place 2 observers out the top, a sticky piston. We're going to go onto this side and place an observer block and then a blue terracotta block with a sticky piston on top facing towards the side. We're going to want to place a temporary block here before we can build the other side of the Blockswapper, and a hopper running into this bottom dropper. Place a honey block on top of that hopper, break the glass above it, place a rail and a minecart with hopper, and run that into the honey block. Replace that block there, and put down an observer block facing out from the piston but 1 block above, and then use a piston, regular piston, to push it down. Like that. Now I can build the other half of that Blockswapper, placing a blue terracotta here, a sticky piston here, and this forms a Blockswapper that was made by Ilmango several years ago now. This bit at the bottom is just a timing circuit because it needs to fire twice in order to work. With a button that just works, but in this case, I'm not using a button. Next, we're going to go back over to here, and grab some orange terracotta in this corner and the block next to it. Skip a block, place another one, place a 2x3 of orange terracotta there, cover both ends with redstone, this corner and this observer. Place a repeater on 4 ticks, and a repeater on 1 tick. Place 2 comparators running out from this redstone dust, and another 2 going the other way into the gap, towards the gap. Grab an observer block and face it out from this comparator here, towards the left side. Run that into an orange terracotta block. beneath that orange terracotta block, in front and behind it, we're going to place note blocks. An observer going from the front to the back, an observer going from the back up into this lime terracotta block. I'm going to place a dispenser next to that lime terracotta. Then we're going to go over to this observer, place another one to the side, it should run into this redstone dust. This is not for it running into the redstone dust, but that just doesn't affect the mechanisms. One going down, and 3 going across. On each of these, we're going to have an observer going up. On the back one, we're going to have 3 droppers. On the front one, we're going to have a note block. On top of this note block, we're going to place a rail, a honey block next to it, minecart with hopper, and push that into the honey block. I'm going to place a lime terracotta block and use a piston to push that down to where the hopper is. Now just do your best not to nudge it. If you do, you can reset it like that. Place a hopper feeding into this bottom dropper with a redstone comparator on it facing out. Place a piston on the opposite side of the dispenser from it, and then we will want to place a note block out of that comparator with an item frame on the same side as the comparator. Place a lime terracotta block on the opposite side with a comparator on top, running into another lime terracotta, a note block, and then a sticky piston with an observer on its face pointing towards the minecart. Going back up top here, place an activator rail or a powered rail on top of this lime terracotta. One up on top of the comparator and place another rail. On top of this note block, place an observer facing into the block the rails are on, and an observer facing the rails. Place a lime terracotta block there and a note block beneath it. This should start to flicker. Place a block on top of the observers and a redstone torch above the rails. And place a comparator facing into that on subtract mode. Go down here and place a dropper facing downwards with hoppers running into the top and back of it, a sideways hopper running into the back, and a downwards hopper there. Next we're going to grab the cyan terracotta. This is an optional circuit, which is just there to protect it in case you think that this is, or yours is likely to completely fill up with items one day. Place a cyan terracotta next to this orange one, redstone comparator facing out from the dispenser, with an observer facing up on top, and a wax copper bulb on top of it, cyan terracotta next to it. From this note block, we're going to place an observer and another one facing towards the front into cyan terracotta, a button on the front of that, and a copper bulb on top. Place comparators from the copper bulbs in towards the middle where you have another block, redstone torch, block, and then a block over to the side towards the rails with redstone dust on top. Now we are going to go over to the other side, grab the hoppers and place them from the dispenser to the top of this observer, and then across into this little nook, out one, and to the front one, underneath the chest. Now if I drop an item on top of that minecart, it should make its way into the dispenser. Next we can break this temporary block, if it's still there. Place an observer facing to the side, one to the back, one to the side, one to the back, and then an orange wall between that and the hopper. After that, we're going to go over to this note block again, which is the one with the item frame on it. Place 2 observers facing towards the right side, 2 towards the back, and then that is going to want to run into a yellow terracotta block. Next to that, we're going to want to have another sticky piston facing down, and place a yellow terracotta block one away from that sticky piston in front of this repeater. This is just a circuit to silence things. Silence one of the others when there are items inside. Next up, we're going to want to place a hopper running into this observer with the minecart clipped inside. Place a barrel on top. And then we're going to want to get a comparator on subtract mode from the hopper. A comparator running into that, and a composter over here. Fill it up to level 7, and it will automatically change to 8. In front of this comparator here, we're going to want to place an observer facing towards the back, and then another one facing out. Optionally, before you do that, something I should have done, grab blue terracotta, place one on top of this note block, a gap, and then start a staircase into the corner. Cover it all in redstone dust. Place 2 observers next to it like this, with redstone dust on top, and then blue terracotta on the bottom. That will make building this much easier. But we've already done it. Next up, we're going to want to grab 3 observers in this corner. We're going to want to grab 2 observers facing up, like this, or facing towards the top. An observer facing towards the left. An observer facing back. Another one facing up. And a note block on top. We'll come back to this one later. Next to this barrel, we are going to want to place 2 hoppers, one facing into its side, next to the rails here, one facing into that. Grab a double chest and place it on top of this second hopper, this air gap, and then place another hopper from the dropper into that large chest, just like that. Get an observer facing downwards next to that chest, just there, and one facing to the side from it. Place a comparator facing out from the chest. Place a temporary block here, optionally, and place a hopper here. I place a temporary block so I can have it face straight down, which I just prefer. So that observer should run into the hopper. Out from that, have another observer, like this. We will come back to that circuit as well. Just like this one, that is a lighting circuit, and this one, it is lighting circuits, so it's easier to just come back to them as we get up to their level. Next, we're going to do the item detection circuit. So, place a light blue terracotta in the gap in the wall there, and fill in that gap. Place another one down a block, and then another one up a block, like this. Skip 2. Place a sticky piston face up in the floor, and then another block on top of it. In this block, this gap here, we're going to place a comparator. On the other side, a redstone torch. And in front of that, a repeater. This mechanism will fire, but just try to ignore it. Next, we are going to place a comparator running out from this block here. So we've got the barrel there, we've got the block here. A comparator on subtract mode, one facing into the side of it from the hopper. Grab your 2 stacks and 8 junk items, and place them inside this hopper, where they will live. Place an observer block in the front of that comparator. And again, that is a lighting circuit, and we will come back to it. Next, go over to this set of observers in the corner and place 3 across like this. Go around to the front, and we're going to want to place in our last piston. If this is facing towards either the east or the west, if you imagine this flipped 180 degrees, the piston will need to go on the south side. If this is facing the north and the south, the piston will need to go on the east side. So north is negative Z and east is positive X. So in this case, I need to put it on the east side, on the south side, sorry, which is this one. And replace that block there. Now what we can do, we can make sure that this is working so far. Break this torch and replace it and watch what it does. That is what we're hoping to see. If the piston gets stuck or pushes everything upwards one, then that just means the piston was placed on the wrong side. Very good. Next, we are going to finish off this comparator here by placing one next to it, placing the furnace, and then filling it with 24 junk items. Running into that furnace, we're going to have an observer here. And on top of that, we're going to put a copper bulb like that. If I can press the correct buttons on my keyboard. Then on top of that, we're going to have a smooth stone slab. So not on top of that, but on top of the chest next to the furnace. We're going to have a smooth stone slab with a comparator on top, running into a block of orange wool, which will go directly behind the lights. Over here, we're going to want to put 2 observers facing out from this light blue terracotta on the piston. One facing up into a copper bulb. Then going to want to put a comparator across the first one we placed into red wool. Make a lightning shape out of red wool here. And place another smooth stone slab on top of this torch. Place redstone dust on all of these 3 blocks. A comparator facing into this one, and one facing away from that side. Now we've done our red and our orange, which are our first 2 lights. Now to do the other 3. Go over to this first one, place 2 observers, running into a glass block. I'm just going to place that for a sec. There we go. I did not use that properly, but there we go. Into the glass block. Have it go 1 to the side, 1 up, 1 back, into lime green wool, wax copper bulb on top, a comparator, and then a repeater, which I should have somewhere there. This one in the middle, going to place an observer, yellow wool, and activator, 2 activator rails, one on the wall, one next to it. Go around and place another observer, watching that rail. It should point under this stone slab. 1 up, place a copper bulb, yellow wool diagonally down, and a comparator facing out from it. For the last one, we're going to place 2 observers, 2 light blue wool side by side, copper bulb on top of the first one, comparator, and redstone dust. Now we can go and we can get our redstone lamps and place them in there, all nice, and should be working. Grab the buttons, place them on these 3 copper bulbs and on this one here. This will serve as a button for the lower copper bulb. And the reason for that serving as a button there is because we're now going to build our waterway by filling in ice on top of this hopper here across. Make sure it is packed ice. Blue ice will not work, I'm told. it's just good habit to use packed ice for inside your storage system anyway. Across this side, we're going to place our 7 glass panes to keep items in without being full block, or keep water in without being full block. Then we're going to grab our last 2 blocks of blackstone glass and put them here and here. Again, to stop water pouring out. And that is why there is not a button here. Now, this should be working. So what you can do, clear out your inventory, go over to here, grab out the shulker boxes with your items, 2 at a time. Put the shulker boxes with single stacks into this dropper, and you should see that they get carried away. Put in the 5th one, and it shouldn't get carried away yet. Grab this 5th one that's still pretty full of items, and grab the item filters. Place it over here. Open it up. Leave 1 stack inside and break that. Inside this dropper, you want to fill that with your item. Fill the hoppers connecting that dropper. This hopper here, you want to put 1 stack of that and fill the rest with one of your filter items. Above that, half a stack and fill the rest with your filter items. Go down beneath it, place 1 item in each of the slots of this hopper, with this hopper minecart. And so now essentially, if this drops out any items before this circuit kicks in, and they make their way into the hopper, this minecart will rip them out before they can cause damage to the system. Then we're going to place this last shulker box in this dropper, and go up top. We should see this shulker box here pull out an item, and it should, sorry that was missed, but it should just work, which it has. If we leave it a little bit before we activate it the second time, we should have heard that click. That's from this circuit turning off, being detected, and firing the dispenser. Open all 6. 2 should be all that's needed to test it, but I prefer to go with 6 just to be extra safe. And excellent. The light should turn back off. Grab your stack of 27 and place it in the top here. You should hear that clicking start. And that is it feeding items into this shulker. That is 1 block I missed. That should have a glass block there, which is why those weren't the last 2 earlier. Now, whenever this shulker box fills up, it will be broken by the system, it will make its way over here, and then when the next one fills up, the same thing will happen, and because there will be 2 in this dropper, it will detect that and it will push them up. And once you've done that, just grab all of your empty shulker boxes and start putting them into this double chest here. A little bit of time. They've got to make their way through. And I like to make them all nice and neat like this. And there we go. Now that all 100 shulker boxes are loaded, you're good to go. And to finish things up, we have the tutorial for the 200 box version. Here I have the space that you'll need to build it laid out. It is 9 blocks deep, including 2 blocks of the floor. It is 9 blocks tall, 4 of which are below the floor, and it is 7 blocks wide with a 1 block offset. This can be reduced to 6 by leaving off one of the circuits I'll show at the end. The indicator lights go 1 block above the box would go here, the lights would go there. and these are the materials required to build it. These shovels can be any non-stackable item that can be put in the fuel section of a furnace. These sticks can be any stackable item that you can put in the cooking part of a furnace that will not cook. These need to be item filters, different 4 items of different filters. This honey block is temporary, and these 10 pumpkin pie can be switched out for anything you can use to get 10 total layers in a composter. The decorated pot can, of course, be decorated however you wish, though you won't see it in the end, so there isn't much point to that. And with that, let's get started. First off, place in your redstone lamps in the wall, above where you want your shulker box to go, and then move underneath and we'll do much of the redstone. Move into the back right corner, one block diagonally in from the corner, place 2 observers facing down into the floor. Place another one out to the right side, 3 back, place a note block and then another one block apart. Build a C shape of observers connecting the 2, and then bridge the gap between the 2 as well. If you right click it, you should hear that go off multiple times. Place some more observers off of this one to the side, 1 up, and 1 towards the front. A note block, and 2 observers going upwards. Out of the note block, run a redstone comparator with an observer facing it, an observer facing that one, and a red terracotta block. Place a note block next to the red terracotta, and an observer facing down from it. Place an observer facing that one, and another one facing up, into a red terracotta block. Go over to these 2 that you stacked up, place an observer facing into the bottom one, and then 2 more, like so. Going inside for a moment, place another observer face up here in the floor, so 3 blocks in from the side, 1 block in that way, and place one sideways towards the middle like this. We're going to come back to this in a minute, but it will make it much easier to have placed it now. From this terracotta, place a note block, an observer going towards this, and an observer going up. Now we can place in our droppers, go into the gap between all of these, place 3 droppers, and a dispenser. This should go right below where you want your shulker box. That's looking good. Go above this note block that we placed early on, and put 2 observers on top, a sticky piston facing up. Place 2 sticky pistons facing to the side, like this. Observer running out from the main sticky piston towards them both. Blue terracotta there, and a barrel underneath this one. Which might seem weird, but it'll make sense eventually. Next up, we're going to go back to this corner. We're going to place an observer facing down next to these 2. And another one like this, and one towards the back. That one towards the back should run into orange terracotta with redstone dust on top. Next to that redstone dust, we're going to place 2 droppers face up, and a dropper facing towards the corner. Place a cobweb in front of it, and a hopper running into the bottom dropper. From that hopper, we're going to run a redstone comparator, a block, and an activator rail on this observer that is face up. You should hear the dropper click. Next, run an observer up from this one, and 2 across into another orange terracotta block. Going back over here for a moment, place an orange wall next to this face-up observer. Running out from where this dropper is, place a comparator and set it to subtract mode. Place another comparator running into it on the orange wall, and then grab your furnace and place it there. Put a wooden shovel or other non-stackable item in the bottom, and 46 items that will not smelt in the top. Next, grab 4 hoppers, 1 running into that bottom dropper, and 3 running into that one, like this. Grab a chest, which it would help if I had grabbed beforehand. Grab a chest and put it on these 2 hoppers. Place another hopper running into the back of it, and one underneath the barrel to run into that. On top of the furnace, place another comparator, lime wall next to the furnace, and a comparator on subtract mode. That should be, the first one you place should be running into this one. Place a decorated pot, and put a non-stackable item, such as a wooden shovel inside. Things are going quite nicely so far. Go back to this orange terracotta block we placed earlier, and we can now place in 2 note blocks diagonally down from it, an observer from one to the other, an observer facing up, a lime terracotta block, a dispenser facing up, 2 droppers facing up diagonally in from it, a hopper next to the dispenser that runs into the dropper, a comparator on that hopper running into a note block with an item frame in the same block as the comparator. Diagonally down from that note block, place a lime terracotta and another comparator. Have that run into a lime terracotta, note block underneath it, sticky piston underneath that, and an observer facing out from the sticky piston. Where this first note block we place here is going to place an activator, or any rail, a honey block, place a hopper minecart on the rail, crouch down and jump into the gap and push the hopper minecart that way. Break the honey block, break the rail, collect them back from inside, place a lime terracotta next to it, and a piston facing into that, and push the block in with the piston. You should still be able to access it. Be careful not to bump it. We shouldn't need to work in this area, but if you do bump it at some point, just reset it the same way. Back down here, we're going to place an observer facing out from this one, another one facing down, 2 facing towards the front, and 1 facing up, which should run into this dropper here. Excellent. Next up, we're going to go back and finish this piece here. Diagonally up from the dispenser on top of this lime terracotta, place a piston facing it. Above the dispenser with a 1 block gap, place a dropper facing downwards. And have hoppers running into that dropper, into the back and the top. 1 running sideways into the top, above that one, and 1 running down into that one. It is important that that is down. Next up, go above this note block, place an observer that is facing towards the dropper, and 1 that is facing away from it. Place a solid block here, 2 activator rails, a block here, and then a note block on that observer's face. It should start ticking. Place a block above this observer and a redstone torch. That should stop it. And a comparator running into that on subtract mode. This forms a 2x speed shulker loader, which I've modified from one by SamosTheSage. So far as I can tell, there's a little bit of confusion going on with the credit on that one. Going back to the middle, place 2 yellow wool like this, and a smooth stone slab like that. Place redstone comparators, 1 running out of the chest, 1 running parallel to it. Set this one to subtract mode and redstone dust in the side. Place a composter down there and fill it up to level 6. So if you use pumpkin pie, you will only need 6. Otherwise, listen for that exact sound 6 times. You can always check F3 if you're not sure. Next up, go over to this dispenser. Place a hopper running into it, a hopper running into the side of that one, 2 more, 1 going back in, 1 going to the right side of the build. You'll hear the pistons go off, but that's okay. Build them back until it reaches this nook, out 1, and then out until it reaches the corner. Once it's in the corner, place a rail on top of the hopper. Place a hopper running into that rail. And get beneath it and place 5 minecarts with chest on the rail. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Break the rail, put a block underneath it. On top of it, I would use a black stained glass block so you can still see what's in it. And use a piston to push that block down. Now replace your floor. Go over in front of this dispenser, break these 2 blocks, place a temporary block there, activate a rail, a honey block, place a minecart with hopper down, and push it into the honey block. Break the rail, break the honey, and replace your 2 floor blocks by pushing them in with a piston. Now, optionally, you can break this block. I would recommend it, but it's not technically required. Going around to the side, we're going to place a redstone staircase here. I know that a lot of this is being done in random orders, but that's just the way that this 200 box design is going to have to be built. Staircase your redstone right up into the corner. Make sure that this is running into a block above the note block. Out of this top redstone dust, run an observer and another one going down into a block. Do not forget that block. It causes problems when you forget it. Going over here now, where this comparator is, I'm going to place an observer face up and then 4 more face out until they reach over this staircase. On top of this one, we're going to place an observer facing up, 1 facing towards the back, 1 facing towards the left side. Place 2 more facing up. On top of this hopper, place 3 face up, and then we will come back to those in a moment. Place a hopper running into this barrel with a double chest on top, and a hopper running into the double chest from above the dropper. Place a smooth stone slab here, a comparator running out of the chest, a comparator running into that one. Make sure the one from the chest is on subtract mode. Place down a composter and set it to level 2. Out the front of this comparator, place 3 observers like so. Next up, we're going to want to place an observer out of the side of this one going down, 1 facing towards the front, and 1 facing towards the right side. Place another one going towards the front, 1 going up, and 1 going towards the front. It should run into a block next to the hole in the wall. On top of these 2, place some going up so that you have them in this pattern here, and then we will come back to those. We've almost finished our lighting circuits. Next up, we want to go around the front. Next, we're going to be placing the piston in the Blockswapper. This is directional, so the piston must be placed on either the east or the south side, as is relevant. If you place the piston on the wrong side, it will not break any of the redstone, and so it is quite easy to fix. However, it can be annoying. Place a light blue terracotta in the gap. Run a comparator out of that block into a light blue terracotta. Place a redstone torch. Skip a block and then place a, if I can find one, place a sticky piston with a light blue terracotta on its face. Now we're going to make sure that our Blockswapper works by placing a repeater here and watching how that reacts. That's exactly what we should see happen. The block should swap out for the piston should activate, and the block should then swap back into place. If it does not, check over the redstone around this side and check that something hasn't been missed. Running out of these 2 now, we're going to place 2 observers towards the front from each one. They should be offset diagonally. And from this one that reaches further forward, place 1 here. Observers facing up from both of them. 2 observers facing towards the front from this block here, and 1 facing up. Place an observer facing up from this corner, 1 facing towards the back. Run that into a light blue wall. Below that light blue wall, place an observer facing towards the back, an observer facing towards the right, and one facing up. Place some light green wool next to that, and place an observer facing into the light green wool from this one that is face up. I promise there is an order to what I'm doing here. Before we move on, so that we don't have things in our way, place down a composter underneath this first light and fill it to level 2. Place a comparator running out of it and redstone dust, which should run into the side of this comparator here. Make sure that this one is still on subtract mode. In the finishing stretch now, place light blue wool, lime green wool, yellow wool, orange wool, and red wool in front of each of the lights, going right to left. Place 2 redstone comparators there, and another one here. And place some copper bulbs behind them. Place an observer facing up from this one, with a copper bulb on top, and a comparator running into the wall. On top of this one, place another copper bulb with a comparator running on top of this one. That should run into a red wool block, where you've got this other red wool block. Expand that out into a lightning shape, and place a smooth stone slab over the redstone torch. Place redstone dust on either end, and place comparators running into this block and away from the other side. Grab the blue ice that you have and run that along here, extending one past the current side of the build. Do the same with your black stained glass, and fill in the 2 gaps with black glass here. It doesn't have to be black, but that's just what I use. Using glass panes on this side. There we go. Now we just need to build the optional circuit that I mentioned at the start. So what this does, if you expect that there is any chance you're going to fill up your silo, you should build this circuit. If you do not think that this silo is ever going to be 100% full, you don't have to worry about it. All that this does is it stops it from continuously dropping items on the ground until the end of time, once it fills up. To build this, over on this orange terracotta, we're going to place a cyan terracotta with a comparator on top. We're going to want to place an observer face up from that, running into a copper bowl. Over on this note block, we're going to want to place an observer face out, an observer facing towards the front, running into a cyan terracotta. Place a copper bulb on top. Place cyan terracotta in the gaps of everything like this, and comparators running from the copper bulbs into the middle. Place a redstone torch, the last 2 cyan terracotta like this, and redstone dust next to this torch here. So all this will do, if there is no active shulker box loaded, and it doesn't have a shulker box to load, it will disable the redstone clock. Should be on the finishing stretches now, making the item filters and filling it up with items that we need. We're almost finished now. We're going to place 5 buttons around the build. One goes on this cyan terracotta to allow you to fix that if something goes wrong with the clock stopper. 3 go around here on these copper bulbs. 1 goes on this copper bulb. Now, quick thing, if you activate this copper bulb with this button, you then have to activate this one to turn it off. And this last one is controlled using the note block that was placed. That was not placed. Did not finish. Alright. Going down here and looking at this observer block, going to place 2 more. Then going to place a note block in front of that, and 3 more observers. And then 1 running up into this hopper. You should see the other observer line catching it. And now this note block will control the second line. those are only there for debugging purposes. If something gets desynced from other redstone around it interacting with it, or you're fixing a problem with the machine, those are there so that you can fix that without having to muck about with it. If you need to change this light for any reason, rather than a button, you can just change the state of the comparator. And now, if I can stop deleting items, it is time to fill up the shulker loader. Grab out 21 stacks and 5 items of whatever you're going to store. Go down to this hopper minecart first and place 5 items, 1 in every slot. Next up, we want to go into this dropper and place 9 stacks of items. The 2 hoppers immediately contacting it should have 5 stacks each. The one that feeds both of those should have 1 stack of items, and filter 2 should have 1 of that placed in each of the remaining slots. Then place one of your other item filter in the 4 last slots, and the last stack of basalt, or whatever you're looking to store. Now we can load it up with shulker boxes. This is going to take a little bit, but if we just go over to this hopper here, we should just be able to continuously click on them. Or this one would, if I don't fall. This one would be better. You should hear it click to dispense a shulker box and then start clicking out to dispense some of your items. That should stop soon after it starts. While I'm putting all of these shulker boxes in the chests, there is an important difference between this and the 150 box versions. With those ones, if you drop items around this hopper minecart, you can pick them up by going into the system and finding them and stopping them from causing any harm. With this version, because it uses hopper minecarts that are chest minecarts that are clipped into a block, that isn't an option. And so you do need to be quite careful not to drop items around that. If you do, just start pulling shulker boxes out from the hoppers afterwards and wait until a regular item goes in and pull it out. And there we go. It is now loaded. Connect this up to your water stream as shown in the important information section. And whenever items flow across it and end up in this hopper, they will get put inside a shulker box. Why is that dispensing? I have also just made a slight mistake which needs correcting. Go down to the bottom here and right click on this note block once. It does not automatically place a shulker box the first time. Now it has, and now whenever items enter this hopper, it will start to load them into the shulker box. And it will be silent while doing so. Once that first shulker box fills up, it will make its way across into the drop elevator and be brought up and dispensed, ready for you to access. The first light will turn on, and you'll be good to go.